Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes. For those keeping count, this is episode 372. And, I should have interviewed this next guest a long, long time ago. We've known each other for probably 2.5 decades. And, you know, but things happen. I reached out, she reached out, life happens. And that's what I think we're going to talk about today, staying relevant in this new world. We got AI, we got crypto, we got all this other stuff, but both of us are diehard marketers. And so I want you, everybody that's listening, to pay attention because I want to welcome Diane Conklin. And we just want to be relevant. We're getting older. At least I'm getting older.
We are.
We were talking off air about, a lot of the people that we know. Uh, and some of them have passed. Great minds, and but we're also talking about some of the next generation, and they're bypassing a lot of the skills that we had to learn to become better marketers. And I worry about the next generation because of all the steps they're skipping. They don't understand long form copy. They don't understand consumer psychology. They don't understand, that it's the long game. All they think about is funnel this and funnel that and AI and crypto. And I'm like, oh, you guys, I don't know. It's, but you've been talking about some of that lately with other podcasters, and I have to appreciate that because at least we want to get our messages out there. We want people to understand that, it's not a quick win. It really isn't.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a choice, Rob. Right? Do you want a quick win? Do you want a quick win and make some money and then go away, or do you want a quick win and make some money and then jump to the next and jump and jump and jump and jump and jump and keep jumping because you're after what I call the BSOS, right? The bright shiny object syndrome. If
Hmm.
you keep jumping at the bright things and you keep jumping from one thing to the other, who are you?
Hmm.
Right? Like you have no identity. You have no, how do you develop a following of people? And maybe you don't want to, and that's okay. It's your choice, right? It's your business. Or you can pick a lane, and there are lots of lanes to choose from, right? And take that lane as either as wide or as long as you can, or both, right?
Right.
As you can take it so that people know who you are and what you stand for, right? It's this piece of you get to choose. It's your business. And I tell people that all the time. If that's what you want to do, knock yourself out, but it's going to be harder.
Yeah.
It's going to be way harder.
And it's not just picking a lane, and I've gotten this even in when I transitioned out of the carpet cleaning business into consulting. People are like, well, Rob, that's a whole different lane. Yeah, but it's all the marketing that I learned in this business, I'm teaching in this business. So technically it's still, then I started writing books and people are like, Rob, you're out of the lane again. So, here,
Well,
here it is I'm making my lane a little wider each
yeah,
time.
that's just it, right? The lane doesn't have to be a straight line. It doesn't have to be that if you make it wide, which is what you've done. And here's the other thing, right? The people who told you that didn't get it.
Yeah.
Because when you and I grew up in this business, it was learn, do, teach, which is exactly what you did in the carpet cleaning business. And instead of just teaching carpet cleaning, you said, "Let me teach these business principles. Let me teach." These things that I've learned to make a successful business to help other business owners. Okay, well, now let me write books about this and let me help others write. So, in a way, you were in the same lane because you continued to learn, do, teach. People now skip the learn and the do part and they just want to teach. How can you teach me, seriously? How can you teach me to build a, let's say, six-figure business
Mhm.
if you haven't done it yourself?
Right. Yeah. Or you get these people on social media. Let me teach you how to get more followers. And I'm looking, I'm going, yeah, but I have like 11,000 followers on LinkedIn and you have 400. How's that going to work?
Well, let's face it, you can get me followers, but what I would prefer is prospects.
Hmm.
Because followers could be nothing wrong with this, but people overseas, if I have a local business, they're never going to spend money with me.
Exactly.
So all the followers in the world do me zero good.
Yeah. Or
That's
you
their
go to
target.
someone's profile and they have 40,000 followers, but you look at their engagement and it's like, what?
Yep.
They have very poor location. So they must have bought followers because the engagement doesn't match.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they're trying to be gurus. They're trying to be influencers. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you're TikTok famous or you're LinkedIn famous, but you go to their Facebook, you go to another platform and no traffic. And it's like, yeah, no, I want authenticity. I want, you know, everything that I do to be correlated to another platform so that you can track it. You can see I'm relevant here, I'm relevant there. I don't want to be famous just on one platform.
And again, that's a choice you've made. And I think if somebody wants to do the TikTok thing and be an influencer and make money just on TikTok or just on Instagram or just on those two platforms, again, knock yourself out. If it's working for you, right? You don't have to do things the way we've done things. Um, but to Rob's point, one is more about consistency, whereas one is that tunnel vision of let me ride this. How long is TikTok going to ride like that? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Or,
Yep.
and I got an email the other day from a former client, and they said, I my TikTok, they have a lot of followers, but they said I'm trying to be better than somebody else because their numbers are rising and they're almost catching up to me. And I'm like, don't worry about
Right.
it. And they tried to justify this. I'm like, nobody does what you do in the manner you do it. Nobody does what he does in the manner he does it. You guys you might compete on a certain level, but the personality is different. People are going to be attracted to you because of your personality. People are
Yeah.
going to go to him because it's stop fighting
Yeah.
and stop
Well,
trying to compare what you do to them. And
the comparison game is never going to work. It has never worked. All it does is bring you down. All it does is make you feel less than, right? Oh, geez, and we all do it. Oh, she started after me and she's making this or she's got this. So what? Right? You be you, do your thing. Now, if it's not working, that's one thing,
Mhm.
right? Now you got to tweak and look and test and, do some other things. But so what? Somebody's ahead of you. There are people behind you. There are people even, it doesn't matter. When you
Right.
start comparing, all you're doing is asking for trouble.
Yeah,
Always.
and you know, I do sometimes look at the younger generation. I see what they're doing. I see the verbiage that they use to try to elicit, a comment or a follow. And to me, it's like you're trying so hard. You're trying to impress too many people all at once. And you know, I then I look at myself and I'm thinking, I'm 56 years old. I got kids, grandkids. Maybe my language has changed over the years. Maybe what I'm doing, I just don't care. Or people say, well, Rob, you don't give a shit. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm trying to be more like Clint Eastwood. Get off my lawn.
Right.
you know,
Well, and
and
I think some of that comes with age, right? I mean, I think you care a little less. You're a little less wound up. You want, time is more valuable than money. Your values change. The things that you
yeah,
want. I mean, look, I'm not working 80, 100 hours a week today at 62 like I was when I was 28 and 30. I'm just not. I don't have the energy for it, right?
right,
Not that I don't love it. Not that I still have the same passion for it. But I want to travel. I want to do other things. I want to whatever. And maybe I just want to go sit and watch Netflix or watch a sporting event. But I think it does change and it changes as we grow, not only through our lives, but through our businesses. And there's nothing wrong with that, you
no,
know?
when I was 25 and started the cleaning business, I know I was cocky. There's no two bits about that, but I was also determined. And, that was what drove me to learn marketing because I got so sick and tired of handing over my money to newspapers and clipper type magazines for them to design ads that look like everybody else's. There was no there was no advantage to using me over someone else.
Yeah.
And now I'm losing my voice. But that was the catalyst for me to learn marketing, to learn from the masters like Dan Kennedy and Jay Abraham and even Joe Polish
Jeff
and
Paul.
but today's game is a little different.
Oh yeah.
The people aren't learning marketing. They don't care. They're just, hey, Rob, I'm just going to go to AI. In fact, I had somebody ask me or not ask me. They basically flat out told me, Rob, no one reads books anymore. Stop printing books. We want
Go come to my
audio.
house and see the 8 double stacked. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I love books, and I hate Kindle. I really do. People, Rob, put my book on Kindle. You know what? I like the physical piece of a book to turn the pages. Um, but my philosophy is always my books are less than 200 pages. I keep it simple. In 2 hours, you're done. You go about your day. I don't keep them technical. I don't keep them complicated. Um, but yeah, I don't want the whole world to be replaced by AI. AI is a tool. I think it has its place,
yep.
but I don't want people to eventually become what the movie Wall-E portrayed us to be.
Right.
We're just not going to think about stuff. We're going to get fat and we're just going to stay in our floatable recliners everywhere.
Well, as we talked before we came on, AI is a tool, and it's not a business; it's a tool. It's a
Hmm.
tool just like your merchant account, just like your CRM, just like all the other things that we have. I used StreamYard this morning to shoot a quick video
Hmm.
that I went live. Right? It's a tool. So
Hmm.
AI is the same thing, and can it do a lot of things? Yeah, it can.
Hmm.
Should you be taking advantage of it? Yeah, absolutely. And if it makes sense in your business to have a bot or to have an AI receptionist or to have a question and answer section where they take all of your content and create things, then use it for scheduling. Use it however you want. Here's the piece: is AI can't do what you and I are doing. AI doesn't replace the relationship
Right.
that Rob and I built over 20, 25 years, right? It doesn't replace the people part. And I think the thing that the way I've used AI is AI only comes in with my content. And so it always sounds like me. And
Hmm.
then I always add, I always subtract, I always modify, right? It's a tool. I don't use it exclusively, but what I do use it for, it uses my content. And so I'm not worried about it going out and finding information that isn't true,
Hmm.
right? Because it's me. And so it sounds like me, right? But I think you want to use it. I think we would be silly to say, oh, AI is whatever. But the flip side of the coin is how many things have we been through in our life that were supposed to be the end of the world, right? Oh, internet. Oh, Y2K. Well, oh, cell phones. Well, yeah, the first cell phone I had was a bag phone that was used. Now you carry a computer around in your pocket.
Hmm.
That's what this is. It's not a phone, it's a mini computer. When I went to college, you had to go to the computer lab, which was as big as a room, and put, I don't need Fortran or something that I don't even know, like stick these little cards in it to make the computer work. Now you carry one in your purse or your pocket.
Hmm.
So we as marketers and we as business people have to follow trends, but it doesn't mean that we have to let them take over
Right.
everything in our business.
Well,
I don't think any tool can do that.
no, but just like these, they are tools, but most people don't use them the correct way as a tool as an entrepreneur. You know, make a video. You're right here. You
Right,
know,
right.
jot down your thoughts, add them to your notes. You know, send emails.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's we thought that we were all going to die, during Y2K, and it was the biggest nothing ever.
right. Right.
You
And the
know,
rapture didn't happen a few weeks ago either, by the
no,
way.
no, I was disappointed. I, I made a video about the rapture, and I had
Well,
so many people criticize me because
you know,
I'm
at
like,
some
this is
point, that's a great point. One of the things that we've lost as a society and we've lost as business owners is the element of fun. It's okay to make fun of yourself. Got to be careful making fun of other people, but I do it all the time. People are like, Diane, how many times did you shoot that video? Once. Well, what if you said something? I just laugh at I make fun of myself, but it's my personality, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I stopped a long time ago reshooting videos, and people are like, "You did that live?" Yeah, it was 3 minutes this morning. If I can't go live, well, this comes so naturally. No, it doesn't come naturally to me. I've been doing it for 30 years. I better look like I'm good at it,
Yeah.
you know? And so,
Well,
but I
yeah,
think,
it's funny because 10 years ago when YouTube was becoming more mainstream and people were starting to put out videos, I'd have people ask me, "Hey, Rob, can you write me a script? Can you do that?" And I'm like, just and I think you can do this on your own. It's 3 minutes, you
well,
know.
but
But
over time, Kara Lawson, who's the head women's basketball coach at Duke, says things don't get easier. We do hard better. And I love that. But here's the piece, right? Yeah, I used to try to do the script. Then I got to the point where I would tape to because I still do videos with my computer. It's just easier for me. But I've got two 26-inch monitors and the whole setup. But I would tape, like you can see what I'm doing. I would tape it up by the camera, like the 5 things I wanted to make sure that I was going to do. Things like this, I would have 20 years ago, I would have said, well, what questions are you going to ask me? And
yeah,
I finally had a friend say to me, Diane, really? We're just going to get on and talk.
mhm,
You can do, and I was nervous. Now I'm like, okay,
yeah.
whatever we talk about is what we talk
And
about.
I still get people. I'll reach out. Hey, I think what you're doing is awesome. You want to come on the podcast? And they want to know questions, and I'm like, that's the wrong answer. I don't think you'll fit in.
But I get it, right? Because it's not that this is any easier than it used to be. We just do the hard things better because we've been doing them for a longer
Yeah,
period of time.
and
It's with everything.
I and you and I have experienced a lot over the years. The false marketers, the gurus, the people who will rip people off, and then we're the ones who get bad mouthed about it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't have anything to do with that,
Right.
you
Right.
know. But I get it. We don't want to be victims anymore. And one of the things that I did early on is, when people come to me for coaching, I will charge them 3 months up front because I know that, if they're not getting instant return after that first one, they're going to cancel and they're not going to pay me. So the first 3 months you got to pay up front, and it's a hefty fee. But it also eliminates all those tire kickers.
Yep.
Rob, I can't give you 3 months up front,
Yep.
but it puts the accountability back on them,
Yep.
and I don't want people canceling after a month or 2 months.
Yeah.
You committed, this is what we're gonna do. And so yeah,
Well,
it changed the way I do business. Um, and I can't even tell you the last time someone even wrote me a check. Um,
right. Right. That's funny because the long guy was writing checks too, and I write a check for my rent because it's just the guy doesn't have the online stuff, and the online check takes too long. But yeah, I mean, I do on a occasion. But I mean, right? Look at technology. We used to everything, even at the grocery store, writing a check. Right now, we don't do that. But if you look at however old you are, right? Look at what's happened in your lifetime, and it's amazing. One, the changes that have happened. Two, the technology and how quickly now right, easy for me to
I do that all the
technology, right?
time.
See, it's perfect. Technology is changing now. I mean, it's crazy.
Mhm.
Um, and I tend not to be the early adopter, and that's just my personality. I'm a little not cynical. I hope I never get cynical, but I'm skeptical, and I think that's a good thing, right? I still have one of these. That's a landline corded phone for those of you who don't know, and that's how I do business. My clients don't have this number. Why? Because I don't want text messages at 3 a.m. Yes, I'm aware I can turn it off, right?
Mhm.
But that's just, and no one's ever said to me, I don't have enough access, right? There's email, there's whatever. But you know, things happen so fast, it's okay not to jump on the bandwagon as soon as stuff happens. Now, if you're an early adopter, g- that's great. I hope you have somebody on your team who's a little more like me because it's going to balance you out, right? I have a client who he jumps on everything, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold up, right? So there's this nice and sometimes he's like, nope, we're going to run, Diane. And sometimes he's like, okay. And sometimes he runs, and I sit back and go, what about this and what about that? And I wait, right, before I'm like, okay, I'm all in now. And sometimes it takes me, a few months.
Well, I was the same way with AI. I was reluctant, and I've been using AI now for, I don't know, 2, 3 years, you know? But I use it as a tool. I don't use it to clone my face. I don't use it to anything that doesn't help me build trust with an audience, I don't do.
Yeah.
I'll help it. I'll use it to analyze, you know, trends, or something somebody sends me. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound right. Let me throw it in there and have it spit out an answer. And
And
yeah,
that's, I think, one of the big issues with the way, and look, it's not AI, it's the way we use it. It's
mhm,
humans have flawed it. It's not AI's fault, right? It's our fault.
right,
But, stuff comes up. You're on social media, and I look at something and I'm like, is that true?
yeah,
Diane Keating died not too long ago, and I went to Google. I still use Google as my search, but I'm like, did I? Oh, yep, that's true, right? But there was something else the other day, and I looked at it, and I'm like, because Peyton Manning has died of this massive car crash like 12 times in my lifetime, right? He's still alive, by the way. But I go check, and it's like, or you look at a photo, or this has happened a lot lately. I'm on Facebook, let's just say, right? And I see like the same headline: this university is now giving free tuition to in-state. I've seen that like 6 times. After the sixth time, I'm like, that's fake,
yeah.
right? I mean, because that's not something I would go check on. But isn't it horrible that we now have to go check?
Mhm. Well, I just made a video called Trust But Verify. Yeah, we want to trust the people that are posting all this stuff, but why don't we just take 2 minutes to verify the
Yeah,
information?
yeah. And
And
it's not just social. I mean, even sometimes something comes on the news or TV, and I'm like, is that true?
yeah,
It's created this lack of trust, I think.
mhm,
Now somebody said to me the other day, I was laughing because I haven't had new headshots done in probably 20 years. I just hate the process, right? Somebody said to me the other day, well, Diane, you should try, letting AI do it. And I was like, that's not a bad idea. I might go see about some headshots.
but some of them though, I've seen some of those AI headshots, and they're just so glossy.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they're fake. And
look,
I don't want that because that's not who I am.
we all have imperfections, but the AI strips some of that. They make your face
Right,
perfect, both sides, and
right,
I'm like,
right.
not you. So, I my big thing is if I'm going to create a legacy, if I'm going to create authority or credibility, it needs to be done on my time,
Yeah,
in my way. And
yeah.
and AI can't do that.
Mhm.
It can assist,
Yep.
but it can't become the absolute you. Especially now with all the new, hey, all the people out there going, just clone your face and tell the AI what to and then you can make your videos that way. You never have to show. Look, I'd rather show up.
Yeah,
I'd rather show up with all my imperfections. I'd rather show up with my stuttering. I'd rather show up and mess up, but
yep.
it's me, and that's how I'm going to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And
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 I think people are attracted to that, right? I mean, look, goodness knows, I'm not perfect and I don't try to be. Um And I think sometimes, you're talking about the younger generation. It's interesting because I've had a few clients in their 20s, and it's interesting how, like, one guy used to come with the red therapy light on, and I said to him, "Do you do this with clients? Like, is this how you?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "No wonder you're not making." He's dealing with corporate, like, trying to sell corporate, right? I said, "No wonder you're having a hard time selling. Like, you gotta be real, I mean, corporations want something different, but I think sometimes the 20, 30 year olds look at people like us, right? You're 56, I'm 62, and they go, I don't want to work with
Yeah,
them.
but I
They're
feel
irrelevant.
62.
They're, huh? What'd you
I
say?
feel 62.
Oh, well, I'm not sure how you. No, I'm kidding. But, instead of looking at it and saying, look at all the experience Rob has, look at all the things Diane's done, look at all the clients she's worked with, and all the ways that she can take and utilize all that and help me with that experience, right? Instead of saying, oh, they're old or they've been around so long, that should be a positive, not a negative. Because one of the things that a marketer that I respect a lot said years ago was, I don't want to coach with somebody who hasn't risen and fallen at least once, but I would prefer twice. Why?
Mhm.
Because once you know what it takes to get to 100,000 or a million or whatever your number is, and you lose it, and a lot of these big marketers do that, right? I can name 4 or 5 off the top of my head. You know how to rebuild it.
Mhm.
And it's the rebuilding of it the second time that shows your grit, that shows your work ethic, that shows your persistence, your consistency, all of those things, right? But we forget about that, or we don't think about that sometimes. It's not a negative, it's a positive. Would you rather work with somebody who has those experiences, who's worked with hundreds of people and can really help you? Or do you want to work with somebody who's read a book about it?
Yeah.
I want to work with a real professor, not the ivory tower one.
No,
And so,
and for me, it's as I've gotten older, it's also about legacy. What do I want to leave behind? And
yeah,
it doesn't have to be about money. It's
yeah,
the information that I'm sharing with people, I want them to take it to the next generation and teach,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's how I'm going to stay relevant. Be when I'm gone.
yeah,
But I also look at what did my some of my entrepreneurial heroes do. And I love Walt Disney and Milton Hershey, who built Hershey chocolate. Both of them failed multiple times before they built this empire. But they didn't build the empire to build an empire. They built it to serve a community.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and I think we've stripped that away from some of the thinking of why it's not just about what's your why, but who are you going to help along the way?
yeah. Yeah, all that passion and purpose stuff. I tell people, follow your actions, it'll lead you where you need to be, kind of thing. It's not about any of those things, but again, it's about what you make it. It's about what you want it to be. And I think, again, the legacy piece, and whether you have kids or you don't, and I don't, but one of the things I talk about is I have something I call the ripple effect, right? And it's an acronym: repetition in place produces little effect somewhere. And for me, that's the piece that I love is, I worked with a guy, and his name is Casey Graham. He's from Atlanta. And he was working with these small startup, and mean small startup churches that were in like community centers and stuff. And he'll tell you, I was driving around with a little red pickup truck, broke as a joke. And he decided that he wanted to do something different. And he and I worked together and he went from 0 to 6 figures in 90 days and onto $1 million in 12 months.
Mhm.
And then now built that business, sold it after 5 years, multi-million dollar buyout. He walked away and started another business after a little time of, he called me. It's like, I have this idea, right? And he's done that multiple millions. At last I talked to him, he was about 6 million in that business. And now that business runs without him, right? He's still involved, but he's not on a daily kind of thing. But I look at that and I think to myself, look at the ripple effect that I had
Mhm.
that nobody knows, and I don't care, right? If anybody knows, he still to this day, if he sees me or we're on something or we are somewhere, he still gives me credit. And this has been 15 years ago now, right? But I look at that and I say, it wasn't just about Casey. Casey's got 2 kids. Casey's got this new business with all of those people that are working for him in there, all of his clients, all of Casey's kids' friends, right? That ripple effect, one, has literally thousands of people that have been affected by that one thing that I did. And I love that. I mean, that's the piece for me that means the most, kind of thing, is that ripple effect that you can have by doing whatever it is that you do,
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know?
it's when I first started being an entrepreneur, I thought it was all about fame and fortune, money. And as I got older, I'm thinking, this is not why I started this business. I started it because of freedom,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do what I want, to do when I want it, when to
Yep.
do, and I think we forgot that.
Yeah.
Because that people start businesses and then they end up becoming slave to the business. They've created themselves a job.
Job. Yeah. And and I tell people all the time, if that's what you want, knock yourself out, right? But to me, people say, what's your definition of success? It's being able to do what I want with who I want for as long as I want when I want, right? That's to me the ultimate freedom. But 90%, 95% of the people I talk to tell you that they started a business for one of two things: time and money,
Mhm.
right? Time and or money, freedom, right? Um, and then they do, they're now a slave to it because you didn't build it the right way from the beginning. And again, there was a time in my life when I said if I could work from home and make $60,000 a year, that would be heaven, right? Well, I've long since surpassed that, and 60 grand won't even start it now. But that was back in the years that started with a 1-9, right? But and you progress with things, but it is that piece of you know what do you really want? It was never. I've only ever met one person in my life who I believed it was about money. And what it really was about for him, even though he always said all he cared about was the money, he wanted the money to be able to take care of his family. It wasn't about him, it was taking care of his family.
Yeah,
But the money is just the way we measure. It's not the real reason,
yeah,
right? I mean, and the money, the people who talk about it the most, the people who flaunt what you think of as money are the people who aren't really making it, are the people who probably don't have 2 nickels to rub together.
no,
Um,
and they're the first ones who bail on you when they've signed contracts they
yeah,
can't afford.
right, right. So, all the glit and glitter, all the fancy cars and fancy houses and all that stuff, that's easy to model now. That's easy to, I mean, I could stop in front of hundreds of houses in Atlanta and click a picture, or shoot a quick video and then get the hell out of there because I'm trespassing. But, uh, it's the
What are you
blue,
doing in my garage,
right,
posing next to my
right,
car?
right. But it's the blue Highlander for me, and I love it. I don't need some big fancy, but that's me.
Yeah.
If you love the cars and the red soled shoes and the fancy jewelry and all that, knock yourself out. Look, for as plain Jane as I am, girl ain't ever gonna say no to a big old diamond ever. I could walk in the grocery, in the jewelry store, and pick out the most expensive thing in there. I can guarantee you that. Um, it's
And
funny. I was
to me, it's having a fancy car was never the thing. I have a Buick Enclave. I love it. It does what I want it to do.
right.
It has some of the fancy buttons that, to this day, I still don't know what they all do.
Amen, brother. Me too.
My wife's going click, 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 and it's working, and I'm like, forget it.
Right.
But it's yeah, and I do. I look at things differently now than I used to.
Yeah.
I even look at what my friends are doing differently.
Yeah.
We have changed. Not to say that's good or bad, But I think that as we got older, we wanted to stand for something.
Yeah.
We wanted to leave that legacy behind. We look behind and say, what did we accomplish with our lives? And it's not about a collection of connections. I don't care how many, across the spectrum that follow me, because honestly, you only need one or two sales a month, really good sales,
Yeah.
to make your life worthwhile.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
not about accepting every client,
yeah.
as a, into your funnel. It's
Yeah.
about accepting the
Well,
right ones.
yeah. And it's not about, it used to be he who had the largest list won. That's
Yeah.
not true anymore.
No,
And I'm not
not.
sure it ever was, but I know somebody that's got 100 people on her list that does six figures.
Yeah.
Most people would be like, "Oh, you can't do that." Yeah, you can. Now, I'm not saying don't go build a list. I think building a list is still important. But what's more important than building a list is what you see here is the connection. It's the real relationship, right? Rob said, "Hey, do you want it?" And I said, "Sure." Right? It's being able to pick up the phone and saying, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or, "Hey, I've got a challenge with this. Who do you know that?" That connection, that interconnectedness that you have with people to be able to pick up the phone. And I've got a friend that he's really good at Facebook ads, and I picked up the phone the other day and said, or I sent him a message and said, "Hey, do you have a few? I need some assistance with this. Do you have a few minutes we can chit chat?"
Hmm.
So he's helping me with all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, "I need to pay you." No, I've known this guy for 20 years. It's just he's helping me. I've helped him do stuff. I've referred people to him over the years, right? That no amount of money can buy
No,
that.
and as I've gotten older, I don't want referral rewards from people.
Right,
And I will pass you to another person I believe will, you'll assist, or vice versa. But I don't want anything out of it. I don't
right,
want, hey Rob, I pay for referrals. I don't care. Keep it. Give it a charity.
right.
I'm
You
not
know what
doing it for the
right.
referral.
You know what I do want though, Rob? Really simple. A thank you.
Hmm.
And people don't do that anymore.
No, and they don't, and I have, on the other side of the monitor, I have 5 thank you cards that I've gotten over the last 2 years. 5.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody writes thank you cards
Mm,
anymore.
nope. Nope, they'll send a quick email, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
and I got a fly going around. The other day, someone emailed me, and I'm like, "I'm not going back and forth with you." I picked up the phone, and they're like, "Why are you calling me?"
Right.
"Because let's settle this right now, because
Right, because
there's
in 3
back and forth."
minutes, we can get this done instead
Yeah.
of 30 minutes or all day and back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they people don't
Yep.
expect you to pick up the phone and call
Right.
anymore.
Right. Which is why it's one more thing that you can do that makes you stand out. Now, getting people to answer is a whole different thing, right? But when you pick up and it doesn't have to be you,
Yeah.
right? If people know who you are, will take me. Not that I'm some big group, but if somebody called and said, "Hi, this is Rob, and I'm calling from Diane Conklin's office," people would be like, "What? What? Like from Diane? Really?" I mean, it doesn't have to be you, but if you do it, look. I do something every Friday, and I have it. It's on my calendar. I had a friend who made fun of me for putting it on my calendar. "Well, Diane, if you have to put it on your calendar, is it really genuine?" Yeah, it's genuine. It's called Reconnect Call. Every Friday, I pick up the phone and I call somebody I haven't talked to in a while. I haven't, you know, communicated with. 5 or 10 minutes. And I always say this, if they pick up, I always say, "Hey, it's Diane. Do you have 5 minutes?" And at the end of 5 minutes, I literally say, "Our 5 minutes are up. I'm happy to keep talking to you if you want, but I want to respect your time." I'm just calling to reconnect. I'm just calling to say hi. I don't want anything. I'm not selling anything. I'm just there to say, "Hey, I was thinking about you and just wanted to say hi and see if there was anything I could do for you."
That is a brilliant idea,
Every Friday.
and I think everybody should take note, put it on your calendar, reconnect call.
Yep.
Because here's the thing is after COVID, people craved connection.
Yep.
They craved that human voice from somebody else,
Yep.
you know, and we've lost that ability.
Again, yeah.
Yes, we have these phones.
That we
Dial
carry everywhere
somebody.
with us. Oh my God, let's not be
Yeah,
without our phone. It's
but
in my pocket. It's in
use
my.
it the way it was designed.
Yeah.
Not send an email, not text, not WhatsApp, not Facebook.
Right.
Actual pick up the phone. Call somebody. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yeah, and I think sometimes too we forget. Bill Glazer, I'll never forget this. Bill Glazer said, "The entrepreneur is the loneliest job in the world." And it is. Even if you have a team, because most of us now, our teams are virtual. Not everyone, right? But even then, even if because you're the boss, right? You're the owner, you're the guru, you're the whatever title you want to put on it. People don't just walk into your office if you have one to chit chat or to ask you how your day was, or right, your management team might, but I'm talking about real connection,
mhm.
right? We've lost that. I mean, I sit here in my, I live alone, I work alone. It gets lonely
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well,
It's why
hey,
I go
man, I
to the
got a
gym.
family. I got kids.
Right.
It still
Right.
gets lonely.
Right. Right. It
All my
still gets
team
lonely.
members are scattered all over the world.
Well, and you can love your spouse. I've loved mine over the years, right? But they don't get it.
No.
They don't get us. They don't get how we think. They think we're crazy, and we are a little crazy, right? Yeah, we look a little crazy, a little crazy. You got to be to do this stuff,
And you got to be crazy to be doing this for 30 years.
right?
You know, people are like, well, Rob, why should I trust you? And I got this the other day. They asked me point blank, have you ever done a TED Talk? No, but I got 30 years experience and published 60 plus books.
And how many times have you been on a platform?
Yeah, I've spoken at events. But
Right,
why do I need TED Talk to validate shit?
right.
But I didn't get hired because I didn't do a TED Talk. I'm
Well,
like,
see, you should have said no, but I have one scheduled for tomorrow. You could have AI'd the background and.
and I'm like, the world's going crazy,
Yeah.
But
And it's something to think about, right? I mean, that brings up, I think, a great point. What arbitrary things are you putting out there as criteria for hiring somebody, or criteria for working with a coach or a marketer or whatever, that you should like look at?
mhm,
Right? A TED Talk. Do you know how many hours like I've spent on the platform? No, I've never done a TED Talk, but I got all kinds of clips of me. I was the only speaker to ever be asked twice to a Merle Norman event, right? For those of you who don't know, that's a cosmetic company. Um, they've been around for a lot of years. Our grandmothers use Merle Norman. But, it's like, shouldn't that matter more than the TED Talk thing? Yeah, I can send you all kinds of clips, right?
mm,
I've sold from the platform. I've done keynotes. It's that piece of what arbitrary things are you throwing out there that what do they mean? Nothing, right? But you put it as a barrier,
yeah,
and I think one, we put too many barriers up, and two, we want things to happen so quickly.
yeah,
Things take time. They
mhm,
just do. There's no such thing as, a quick fix. There's no such thing as that instant gratification.
no, but I also want everybody to understand that what you see on the internet, what the reviews that you might get, take them with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I
Good
stopped
or
looking
bad.
at people giving me reviews because of their, I don't know, whatever. I'll post something, or I'll say, hey, I'll look at my Amazon reviews for my books, and people are just going, it's absolute rubbish. It's this, it's that, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't get that many of them, negative ones. But I've seen so many people, they'll have 100 positive, one negative. They harp on that one negative for 3 weeks, trying to improve their business. And I'm like, just don't
Yeah.
even look at your reviews.
Yeah.
Stop.
Well, it's interesting because people on both, right? Positive or negative,
Hmm.
do they really understand what it is that you're doing? And I use sports a lot in my analogies because I'm a huge sports person, but I look at, I'm a big women's basketball fan, and the WNBA just finished up. And, there's certain players that it doesn't matter what they do. they're wrong.
Yeah.
Or there's certain players that no matter what they do, they can't do anything wrong. But when you start to look at comments, and I do sometimes just for fun, you know immediately who is a fan of a particular player and who's a basketball fan. And there's a huge difference. And so that's why taking some of those things with a grain of salt, it's like, one, did these people even read the book?
Hmm.
Two, have they ever read a book? We know 97% of the people have never read a book all the way through from cover to cover after they graduated high school. So
And I'll get, Rob, is your book on audio? No, learn to read. So, this has been great, but where do people find you? Where do they go to? Do you have a
Sure.
website?
So the website is completemarketingsystems.com. You can find me on socials at Diane Conklin. It's not hard. I'm pretty much out there on one of those two things. I've got a new series going right now. It's dianesdozen.com, and I've got a bunch of those. There's Aunt Di's Dozen. There's a Diane's Farm Dozen. There's a Diane's Health Dozen is coming in. It's all really. I started off with Diane's Dozen, which was a sports one, and it was really all about the lessons I learned as an athlete. I played Division I college softball, and so it just has kind of gotten a life of its own. But they've been fun. This last one that's going now is Aunt Di's Dozen, and it's lessons I've learned from all the littles in my life, nieces and nephews, some by blood and some by love. But so I'm having fun with that. But Complete Marketing Systems is the main
And
one.
see, there you go. Have fun with what you do.
Yeah,
And it doesn't always have to make money.
yeah,
You know, I
yeah,
can't tell you the things that I've done that I've had fun. Didn't make any money.
yep,
Some of my books didn't make any money.
yep.
But I had fun creating them. And in fact, the one book I made in 2015, Lessons from the Dojo, didn't start making money until 6 years after I wrote it. It just happens.
Yeah,
So, do what you love,
yeah,
have fun doing it, and the money will come, but don't do things just for the money
right.
because it's the wrong reason.
Yeah, and the Andi's dozen is the epitome of that. I mean, it's a side that a lot of people don't see. I think I'm smiling through every one of the 12 videos, and the 13th one, I'll give you this. The 13th one was get lots of hugs and kisses. And what does that have to do with business? Well, maybe nothing, but maybe everything, right?
Yeah.
Go check out the series and find out. But it's just, you got to have that fun. If you're not having fun at what you're doing, you need to rethink what you're doing.
Yeah.
And not every day is going to be fun, right? I mean, like at least once a year, sometimes twice. I say that's it. I'm done. I'm going to go get a job at Starbucks. Next day I come, and it's always Starbucks. Don't ask me why, because I don't really drink Starbucks, but I always say that.
I'm
And then
I'm
next
I'm too
day,
sarcastic for Starbucks. I get fired within the first 5 minutes.
the next day I'm right back here. So
Yeah. So it's entrepreneurism isn't always easy. It's probably the most difficult thing you're ever going to do.
yeah,
But working from someone else is not always the answer either. So yeah, being an entrepreneur, I've missed out on paid vacations, on on 401k investments, on all this other stuff. But the thing is, I would never change the way I've done things.
and you know what? There's nothing that's perfect. There's consequences to every choice you make, good and bad, right? If a job fits better for you, I say good for you, right? If this fits better for you, that's great. Maybe it's a combination of the two things. There's no one right answer. There's no one right thing in the world. And I think, it used to be people are like, oh, well, if you have a job, you're just over broke. No, there are a lot of people with jobs that are making great money, right? As a friend of mine used to say, an entrepreneur is somebody who's willing to work 80 hours a week for themselves to make less money than they'd work for somebody else making 40, right? And in some ways it's true. It doesn't always have to be true, but if you're happy, what else matters
Yeah,
in the end?
yeah. Because you can't take it with you.
No, my thing is if I make a positive, my prayer every morning is let me make a positive impact on just one person today. And at
Yeah.
the end of the day, when my feet go up from the floor, that's the prayer I say is thank you for another day. And I hope that I made a difference in at least one
Well,
life.
and I know that there's a lot of people out there that their motto or their slogan or whatever they want to call it. They want to help millions of people, but like you, like me, I want to help one person at a time
Yep.
because
Just one.
I cannot. For me, a million is too many.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
One
and
at a time.
yeah, and when I think about that, again, and I go back to Casey. It's been 10, 15 years and he still gives me credit. That's a life I know I made a difference in. If I died today, and I hope that I don't, but like I've made that. I helped the guy when I was in the fitness industry lose 100 pounds, 104 pounds in 52 weeks. That's 2 pounds a week. Perfect, right? Like he went from like the marshmallow man to the Incredible Hulk. So I look at those things and I'm like, yeah, I've made those differences.
Mhm.
And they've gone on to make differences too, which is, I can't affect a million today, but I can affect one every day.
That's right. So,
And by the way, sometimes it's just a smile.
mhm,
Sometimes it's just opening the door for somebody.
yeah.
Sometimes it's being in line and realizing somebody's $5 short and stepping up and swiping your credit card or handing them
Oh,
a
I've done that
towel.
many times, and yeah, there are people who are very appreciative.
Yeah.
Then there are some that are insulted because you tried to help.
And you know what? So what?
Yeah,
I don't let that affect. You can't let that affect, They're embarrassed. Okay, well, be embarrassed, but take my $5. It ain't no big deal,
yeah.
you know?
One
Oh,
of my
let me
local
take that.
dairies here, you can buy extra milk. So what they do is you go up and say, I'd like to make a donation. So they'll take that milk that you're paying for and take it to the different charities that serve food.
Oh,
And
that's
so
good.
I feel like I'm doing something every time I go there to buy milk. I'm buying extra for the
Right.
donation, and I don't know exactly where all the places it goes, but when the concept started, they were only doing maybe 20, a week or so of people donating the milk. Now they have so many people that almost hundreds of them are being donated every week, and they got to give to more charities, which
Right.
it's the snowball effect.
Well, and here's the thing for me about that, Rob. There's no fanfare, there's no cameras, there's no lights, there's no story every week on social media. It's just being done. And to me, those are the hero stories, the ones nobody hears, the
Right.
people who are just doing their thing, right? When I see some of that stuff on Facebook and people are like, I almost didn't post this. Yeah, but you are. Like, so you want this. If that's why you did it for the wrong reason.
Yeah. So
That's just me. That's just me.
everybody go over to Diane's website,
Yep, that's it.
completemarketingsystems.com. And we'll see you on the next episode. Adios.
Thanks.